guys, I hope you're doing well. I really miss you. And Mila says hi. I think she's gonna do this for every single video. As you can see, I made a YouTube channel. I gave in, and so that's where you'll be able to find my videos from now on. So this week's assignment uses a website called TuneLark. If it sounds familiar, it's because I talked about it on my spring break video. And I see that some of you have signed up and made profiles and played some games. So you're ahead of the game. Sorry, Mrs. Krakauer joke. Yeah, I know. TuneLark is a website with a series of musical games that are designed to teach you various topics about music and help you to experience them by playing the game. Each one has a couple of levels that you have to beat. After playing the games myself, I think each game will take my first year students 15 to maybe 30 minutes. And we're going to do 4 games. Our mission, as TuneLark calls it, our assignment this week focuses on the C major scale, which is the notes. Those are the notes that we use to make our compositions on Songmaker. So you're familiar with the notes, but we get to go a little bit more in depth this week. First, find the fill-in-the-blank worksheet that's attached to this assignment on Schoology, and make sure you have that handy. For each game, you're gonna watch my video, which will have the content that you need to play the game. So watch my video, fill in the blanks for the worksheet, and then play the game. You're gonna do it 4 times for 4 games. You'll see it's very clearly laid out on TuneLark. So here's the content for number 1. Okay, game number 1, lesson number 1. It is called Introduction to the Piano Keyboard. Ta-da! And even though some of you are very familiar with this, please listen so that you know what you're expected to be able to focus on. Okay, so the way that we navigate around the piano or the keyboard, those terms are used kind of interchangeably. The keyboard means any instrument that's laid out like this. So it includes the xylophone, the organ, and the piano, okay? So that's what we're talking about, the piano keyboard. We know that it has white keys and it has black keys. The white keys have letter names. They're natural, regular, so A, B, C, D, E, F, G. The black keys are the sharps and the flats. The way that we can tell which note is which on the piano is because there is a pattern. The black keys have groups of 2, then a space, then groups of 3, then a space. 2, and then 3, then 2, then 3. So you can tell which note is which by where it relates to those groups of 2 and 3, the black keys. For instance, C, since it's the note that we are focusing on, you find a group of 2, and then it is the white note to the left of that group of 2. So here's my group of 2, and then, you probably can't see this, but I move to the left, and that's my C. Now, that 2, then 3 repeats back to 2, and what do you know? That's also C. There are quite a few. There's low Cs. This is what we call middle C, and then more Cs, okay? And you can hear that they sound very similar, even though they are much lower and higher. So that brings us to our first, real vocab word for this, interval. An interval is the distance between 2 notes. And you can see it on a staff, a low note and a high note. It's easier to recognize on the piano. So a large interval would be 2 notes that are very far apart. Okay, a smaller interval would be 2 notes that are very close together. Okay, it's just the distance between 2 notes. The first interval that you need to know goes back to what I was just saying about there being several C's. The interval of an octave as in 8, octopus, octogram, octagon. I don't think there's an octagram. I think I just made that up. Octave. It means 8. There are 7 letters in the musical alphabet. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then what do? We repeat. So just as the pattern of 2 then 3 repeats, so do the letters. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And wouldn't you believe, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. It repeats on the 8th one. So an octave is the same letter, the same note, just lower or higher. Low C, high C. That is an octave. 8 notes apart, but it's much easier to tell just by finding the same note oriented next to the same black key pattern, lower or higher. Okay. There are 2 other intervals that you need to know. The first interval, well, technically the second, is a half step. A half step is the very smallest interval possible. Usually it's going from a white note to the next black note right next to it. It can go down too. Sometimes, like in between the sets of black keys, there are 2 white notes next to each other. If there's no black note in between, that's a half step. It's a black note to a white note. As teeny tiny, if there's no note in between, then that is a half step, okay? A whole step, on the other hand, is just 2 half steps. So, half steps, when you play them together, sound like this. Advanced band, that's the chromatic scale. You learned that. And the reason we care about whole steps and half steps is because each scale, like the C major scale, is made up where some notes are right next to each other and they're a half step apart, and other notes have a flat or a sharp in between. So that is why we care about the difference between whole steps and half steps. But there you go, that should get you through your first game. Come back for the next video to get through the second game. Yay, good luck. Music theory in the key of C major. We should make a song. Ooh, can you make a song? Music theory, key of C major. Yeah. You have to do it though, because otherwise it looks like that.